Hi guys and welcome back to SwitchUp. So here we have it. It's our 50,000 subscriber special as we make our way through those last few hundred, hopefully, subscribers. We will announce the winner of the Divinity II giveaway based on the comments at the bottom of this video. What we'd like you to do is to put down in the comments what your favorite game is on the Nintendo Switch and why in 10 words. You heard me rightly, in just 10 words. Once you've done yours, if you can hit the like button on 2 other comments, hopefully the cream of the crop will rise to the top and we'll see who our winner is. So without further ado, we're going to look at the 10 games that we like the most on Switch. That's not the best scores because you know how these things are. Sometimes you just like those games with a few little bugs in there. They just click with you. What are they? Let's find out. My first pick is a game called Dogma Dark, Arisen, which released on the Nintendo Switch not long ago. It's a very popular RPG that came out back in the day on the PS3 and Xbox 360, but saw a subsequent expansion pack that released the Bitter Black Isles, which were ridiculously difficult. Having this in a handheld was a truly amazing experience. The main thing with this game that appealed to most people was how it turned the usually quite stale RPG combat into something that was the key selling point of the game. It enabled you to mount huge monsters, stabbing them in the neck, while your party of pawns, P-A-W-N-S, as they were known, attacked from below. A very good game indeed. I think the only thing that would benefit this series, other than a sequel, hopefully, would be some form of cooperative online play. A brilliant game and well worth checking out.
My first pick then would be a game called Shakedown Hawaii. Now when I reviewed this, I instantly fell in love with it. It's a love letter to Grand Theft Auto games of old and a follow-up to Retro City Rampage, created of course by Brian Provinciano. Whilst I can accept that some of the missions become a bit repetitive towards the end and the money system also becomes a bit redundant by the end game, it's the only game that I've continued to play after review to 100%, and that speaks volumes.
My next game is one called Moonlighter. Now I mentioned this as also one of the most addictive games on Switch that I've found, but for me this had everything. I do have a bit of a compulsive nature, so the whole selling things in your shop but then going out in the evenings to find them was just a real hook that kept me going. Add in that there are some lovely dungeons. There's not enough in my opinion, to be honest, and they are very difficult, but the whole gameplay loop for me just worked, and I know it has done for many of you guys as well, as you've told me in the comments. An absolutely brilliant game with one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, and strangely enough my family and I listened to this in the background just in our house.
Okay, my next pick then would be Cuphead, which is the game that I've given the highest score to on this channel so far. What I love about this game is of course the frantic run and gun nature and the boss battles, but I also love the art style, the way it uses that rubber hosing effect that was so prominent in animation during the 20s and 30s is quite mind-blowing at times. My dream game on the Switch would be for Disney to give the developers behind Cuphead the rights to the classic Mickey Mouse, Oswald the Rabbit from the 20s and 30s, and get them to create a platform game based on those characters in this style of animation. I know obviously we've had things like Epic Mickey and Mickey Mania back in the day, but I think this could be a real match made in heaven.
Lovely. Now what Glenn fails to mention is the time I rocked up at his house when he was reviewing this one, and literally he was in so much rage. Do you remember, Glenn, with the words something along the lines of, "I hate this game"?
Very true, but I think the beauty of this game is that you can hate it and then you can learn to love it again straight after, and maybe that's why it's so good.
My next choice then is a lovely game called Katana Zero. Now at the time I didn't know what this was really going to be about, but it is a lovely story, almost like the film Leon, whereby you are a hitman who befriends a young child, and it's a lovely little tale. Now in between that, each stage is broken down into a murder sandbox where you can slow time down, use your katana to deflect bullets, and each enemy has a very unique way of handling them. This is one of those games that just oozes style and charm, and I loved every minute of it. When I spoke to the developers after the fact, I do believe they may be intending to include some future DLC, which would be brilliant.
Right, my next pick then, possibly my favourite game so far on the Switch, is between two, and this is Ys 8. Now, I held off on buying this one because I wanted the physical copy, and it was quite hard to come across, although I did eventually find it, and instantly fell in love with this one. I love the idea that it's set on a desert island, which you are washed up on at the start. I love the combat system. I love the fact that you had to try and build your village up by finding other survivors. This was a game that just clicked with me. Now, it's funny because I hadn't played an Ys game since the really early ones where you used to have to walk into people to defeat them. So seeing where the series had grown over the years was such a pleasant surprise. I really cannot recommend this game enough.
Yeah, the thing that you guys don't realise is that because we review so many games, when we talk to each other about titles that we haven't reviewed, we very often sell them to each other. So Glenn was telling me about those mechanics and it just sounded amazing. So I had to get this one, and he wasn't wrong. My next title might be a little bit of a controversial one. It's the, well, I think, great I Am Setsuna. Now, this was slightly criticised for having a more melancholic nature than many of the RPGs of old, and the whole storyline is based around death. The strangely named Tokyo RPG Factory, I think, did a really good job with this one. I liked the characters, but I particularly liked that snowy setting. I felt that it worked well, and it was something unique within this genre. There's nothing overly original here, but it was one of the first great RPGs on Switch, and it just clicked with me.
Right, my fourth pick then, and this is the other one that will be vying for that top spot in terms of my favourite game, and it's River City Girls, which I reviewed very recently. Now, this is for some very personal reasons. First of all, I'm a huge fan of the beat-em-up genre, and a big fan of the predecessor, River City Ransom. I love the RPG elements that they weave into their beat-em-ups, and the way that the town is a lot less linear than you would normally find in this genre of game. And probably the main reason is that I played this through with my daughter for the review, and she absolutely loved it. Now, I know Mark's mentioned his children quite a bit on the channel, and they are very much into games, whereas my daughter's not. And as much as that's absolutely fine, and whatever she wants to do is great, it was nice to have something that brought us together, and it's the first game that she's ever really connected with, and since then she's asked a few times to try other games on the Switch. So not only is it a great game, but it just has a little personal story behind it as well.
Good stuff. And on that personal note, I think the last one for me is, or was, almost the catalyst for why I felt we could take the channel seriously. So Hollow Knight was one of the biggest reviews we ever had on the channel. I think we went from averaging maybe 1,000 views every 48 hours. That game got something crazy like 60 to 100,000 views in a few days, and the number of subscribers was mad. I was trying to decorate my house at the time, and my phone was just pinging constantly, and it just made us think, you know what, if these guys take us seriously, then maybe other people will as well, and it was brilliant. So Hollow Knight for me is not only a brilliant series, and we're looking out for Silksong when it drops soon, but a key moment in the SwitchUp channel history.
Right, my last game then, and this is why it's been nice to do this as our personal favourites as opposed to the games that have got the highest scores, because whereas games like Mario Odyssey I'm sure would be on most people's list, Breath of the Wild of course as well, my final game is Ultra Street Fighter 2. Now I'm sure many people would ask why that is. There's another collection of Street Fighter games, there's a Mortal Kombat game, there are many good fighting games on the Switch, but again it comes back to that nostalgia of Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo and of course in the arcades back in the day, and playing this on the Switch very early in the Switch's life, being able to chuck someone a Joy-Con and play two-player, it just opened your eyes to what the Switch could eventually become. I love what they did with the new graphics and the fact that you could change in between the old and the new as well, and at the end of the day it's Street Fighter. It's one of my favourite franchises of all time.
Lovely. So there you have it. Like Glenn said, this isn't all about Mario and Breath of the Wild. I'm sure they are some of your favourites. Let us know down in the comments and try and do so in 10 words or less, and then go and like 2 other people's, and we will then give away that copy of Divinity 2 to the top comment. Thanks so much to all your support. Being at 50,000 after hitting 15,000 at Christmas is incredible, and we really appreciate it. A big thank you to our patrons who are now up to 87. That's amazing. And if you want to join those guys, the links will all be down below.
Yeah, just one more very big thank you to everybody that's allowed this channel to grow. It really does mean so much to us. It's unbelievable seeing those numbers continue to climb. And here's to the next 50,000. Take care, everyone. Until next time, happy gaming.
For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. See ya!